Okay, perfect. Just waiting notification. All right. Okay, boom. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this evening. We have a wonderful guest with us, an author, an entrepreneur, and so much more. And we're here to discuss her incredible book, Stronger. First of all, how are you doing today, ma'am?
I am great. It's a great time to be alive, and I really appreciate you bringing me on the People's Podcast. I'm excited, and I feel good.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Great, great, great. Okay, well, the first thing we want to know is what got you to write the book?
Well, Stronger, I would consider a masterpiece of mine. It's my fourth book. I'm
Okay.
an author by trade. I went to school, I graduated from Howard University, HU, for
You
journalism.
know.
Yes, you know, absolutely the real HU, no
Yeah.
shade. Um,
Yeah.
but writing Stronger was a book that I initially, as an author, I had cultivated in my mind that it was going to be this like romance novel, this Black romance novel. Um, where it was just gonna be beautiful, it was gonna be Black, it was gonna be Wakanda-ish, right?
Okay. Okay.
And um in 2017, life happened for me where my husband was gunned down, he was murdered, and in DC. And so my whole life just paused. My heart was shattered. And at that point, I realized, once I started going through the process of healing and therapy, that I wanted to write our story, which to me, it is a Black urban love story. It's unapologetic, it's hood, it's gritty, it's beautiful, it's resilient, but it also, has bouts of mental illness and substance abuse and so many different elements that we deal with as a people. I capture it in this book. So it's 26 chapters, well, 27 chapters, 526 pages. Could
Okay.
you
Okay.
imagine? Um, and it is just so amazing. It's a masterpiece in my eyes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And I want to make sure that thank everybody who continues to watch People's Podcast as we support you. Where can we get this book? Because we're going to dive into it. But where can we get the book?
Yes, so it made 5 stars on Amazon. So you definitely can grab a copy on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, or any Barnes and Noble. You can also grab autographed copies from BrandieForte.com. And in your city, you can go to a Barnes and Noble and also get the book.
Okay, great. Yes, ma'am. Now, when you say you're an author by trade, what does that mean?
That means that's what I do for a living.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
I'm a writer, just an all around writer, whether it's writing books, whether it's publications, as a columnist, if it's ghostwriting, um, I would just say definitely like that is what I do for a living, parallel to my life as an entrepreneur. So I'm also an entrepreneur and have been for 11 years.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, let's get to the book. Okay. So
absolutely.
your love story of you and your husband. How did you all meet?
Wow. So the characters in the book, because it's a fiction book, but of course it's based on a true story. The main character is Dream, so that is my character. My husband's character, his name is Kenya. We met in DC. We met actually at his daughter's birthday party, and the book opens up pretty much how we meet through a mutual friend. And I took my son at the time, who was 4, to a birthday party of a child that he played with a lot. and it was his daughter, and I had never met him before, but we always, we spent time around his daughter because we had mutual, friends at the time. And I met him at the birthday party, and he just looked like, he was from Kenya.
Yes,
He
ma'am.
was
Yes, ma'am.
strong. He was amazing. I just gravitated to how he was around children. And, we just became real cool, and we connected at a different point in our lives where, we were young, we were in our late 20s, and we were trying to find our way. Um, and so that's how the story begins.
Okay, great. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And the title "Stronger." Where does that exactly come from?
That comes from Kenya. That comes from my late husband. Like, we would go through so much stuff. And what I really like about the book is I pretty much provide a blueprint of how I became an entrepreneur.
Okay.
And I laid it down for me investing 500 into my nonprofit and researching, getting EINs and going through the process of getting licensed and LLC simultaneously, and getting my first office space. So I literally give a blueprint to starting your own business, like step by step in the story. And so through all these metamorphoses in the book and in my real life, you would hear Kenya say, it's going to be me that's going to make you stronger. I'm going to make you stronger. It ain't going to be nobody else. It's going to be me. And, me, I'm like, Miss Strong Black woman. I'm like, yeah, all right, whatever. And it wasn't until the end of the story that it hit me like, yo, he spoke over my life. That was prophecy.
Mm.
And it was him, it was him. So that's it. I just wanted one word.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Absolutely.
And that's what it was.
Okay. Now, for the people who want to read it, is it connected to the other three stories or other three novels, or those all separate?
That is so brilliant. So it is connected to my third novel, which is Free. And Stronger is a sequel to Free. Free pretty much captures my life in my early 20s. It captures my life. Um, Really, there's a quote in the book that says, um, this is a story that my university didn't teach me.
Mm,
This
mm,
is this is what my degree didn't teach me.
mm, mm.
So Free was a book of life experiences for a young Black woman. And really, it was sort of like my coming of age story. And, a lot of times if you go to a HBCU, you are taught, how to be prideful and how to be strong and how to be a scholar and how to be intelligent. And you're supposed to go get that great career and that great job. But what the HBCUs don't teach you is that there's real life. And sometimes you don't get that great job when you get out of college. And sometimes you fall in love and you become heartbroken. And sometimes that heartbreak turns into um, anxiety and highlights of depression. And so, Free is a vindicating story of me in my 20s. And it's such a good book for, I would say, people who are like finding their way, finding their passion, finding their purpose, and really just feeling like they need to liberate themselves. So Free is the prequel, and then Stronger is the sequel. That's how that goes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm in the theater, and I've written a lot of stage plays, and I've written two books, and not no novel yet, no novel yet. But I'm looking forward to diving into that world. And where do you draw inspiration from? Your personal life, I'm assuming.
Well, just studying when I was a child, I just gravitated to books,
Okay.
and I think even my family found that interesting that, I'd be 10, 11 years old studying into Zaki Shangi.
Mm, mm,
And reading and reciting Phenomenal Woman over and over again by Maya Angelou,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
just, those greats, and Nikki Giovanni, and so though that was my blueprint. Those sisters right there, and Toni Morrison, and I just fell in love with the words of those authors. And then, from there, once I got older, it was like Sister Soldier, it was Terry McMillan and
Okay, okay.
Mom Dickey. So I just fell in love with those books, and I felt like, probably about 13, that this is what I want to do. I want to be a writer, and I want to be a renowned writer and a highly respected writer. And so I studied it. And my first book, which is very small, Drama Girl Diary of a Sister Poet, was a book of poetry that I wrote when I lived in New York right after graduation. It was a memoir. And that was in those like backpacking days when life was completely different. We barely had the internet. We were really going through like a process of going to the printers and going to the publishers and shopping the books. And at the time I worked for the Source magazine, I was an editorial assistant. So I did have some leverage because I was writing about writers, and I learned a lot from Terry Woods. And, I put the plan together. So, for anybody out there who wants to write the book, there's so many resources right now during a pandemic. People are workshopping, teaching online, Zooming. You're able to go places virtually that you would have never been able to navigate physically. So definitely research the craft and follow your dreams.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, wonderful. My sister Naima says, peace, family, peace, Naima. Okay, my next question for you is, we're dealing with the Source magazine. Okay, so are you saying that you were to blame for so much of the East Coast bias that came out of the Source magazines? Are you saying we should be mad at you for that? Or is that what you're saying?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I started interning at the Source when I was a junior at Howard.
Okay.
And that's when they opened up. Around that time, they had the West Coast Source office in Hollywood.
Okay.
And I'm a diehard Tupac fan. Like, I was a Source girl coming to the office, crip walking.
Okay.
You know,
Okay. Okay.
I
Okay.
I embody that West Coast energy. But I always wanted to go to New York. I back then it was like going to the Big Apple in 2000. That was it. And they welcomed me, and I met a lot of cool East Coast brothers and sisters that welcomed me. And a lot of those myths and a lot of that divisiveness, I realized it was BS. That
Okay.
at the end of the day, that we were all black, and we were all trying to get somewhere. So even though um, I love being from California, I grew up as an adult on the East Coast.
Okay.
So I think I have the advantage. I got the beauty of a Cali girl and the
Okay.
health
Okay.
of an East Coast girl.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay, good. My sister Naima is applauding you. Well, let's talk about your husband for a moment. So do you go into details about the murder in the book, or is that something that you that you don't touch?
So without giving you all tea, because y'all
Okay,
gotta
okay,
go.
okay. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to go too
You're
far.
gonna have your
Okay.
own book out. You're gonna have your own signed copy book. But for everybody else that is watching,
Okay. Thank you.
I literally go from the beginning to the end,
Mm,
and I paint the picture of what it likes from getting that phone call to heart palpitations to going to a crime scene that smells like guns and blood. And so I'm very vivid. I painted all the way to the end, um, without telling everything. And that was that was closure for me.
mm, mm.
Even though it was painful to write, I never cried so much, both sad and happy tears, because I felt like in writing what happens or what can happen to young Black men in America when they're caught slipping, and telling that story, like, not, this is not third party, this is me, you know, seeing this stuff. Like, the violence has to stop.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's why I felt so crazy today about young Dolph being murdered. That like touched a whole different part of me.
Yes, ma'am. Same. And when what advice would you give to people who are the family members or the loved ones of someone who has been shot or been murdered? What do you tell them about getting closure? You said you spoke earlier of therapy. Was that important for you?
Yes, I have a therapist who is absolutely amazing.
Mm.
We just connected on so many levels. One thing I've learned in the last couple of years of therapy is to create new memories. You know, the grieving process, there's 10 to 15 steps of a grieving process, you know, but I have learned that while you're grieving certain dates, like Father's Day, that's a trigger for me. Like I just shut down. His birthday, I shut down. His death date was November 5th. You know, I go through so many different processes, and my kids do too. But you give yourself permission. I would tell anybody out there who's lost a loved one to gun violence, give yourself permission to grieve, sit still, reflect. And as you get stronger, start creating memories, positive memories. Energy doesn't die. And so, you know, for this is out there, you know, you may have lost your brother or your son or your husband. That energy doesn't die.
Beautiful.
You need to embrace that energy and bring it to yourself and perpetuate it and continue on with their legacy.
Excellent. Okay, great, great. And once again, where can everybody get your book Stronger?
Yes, you can get stronger from BrandieForte.com, from Amazon.com, from Goodreads.com, and BarnesandNoble.com.
Okay, yes, ma'am. And you spoke of 3 books. What about the 4th one? You said you gave us Free, you gave us the poetry, you gave us Stronger.
Yep. So 1 is Drama Girl, 2 is Half Chicken, Half Scholar.
Okay.
Half Chicken, Half Scholar was just truly a chicklet. They called it, the editor called it a novella because it didn't quite meet the page count of a novel, but it was too big to be considered a short story. So it was a novella, maybe 150 pages, if that. But it was a chicklet, just a funny, humorous book about Black women and their friendship. The title was catchy, Half Chicken, Half Scholar,
Yes,
because
ma'am.
it was on that Project Pop era of the chicken head. So you have that half chicken head, and then you have the half scholar, which is like a true balance when it comes to a lot of sisters out here. Then you have Free. Free is a book where it's just for anybody who just wants to be liberated in their minds.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, everything that we do, it starts in the mind, and then we manifest it physically. And then you have Stronger, which is my 4th book, and I'm writing the 5th one, which is going to be the trilogy. And then, because everybody wants to know, you know, right now, our marketing campaign is kind of like life after death. What does that look like? You know,
Okay.
What is life after death? What does that look like for me as a writer? And what does it look like for the stuff that I'm writing and the things that have, you know, have happened? And there's definitely life after. And then, you know, there's there's a young brother that follows me throughout the book of Stronger. So he's gonna appear in the trilogy.
Okay. So you saying you about to move on? Is what you saying? It's about to be a love story.
Yeah, Dream moves on. Dream don't stay there. Sisters, if you're watching, brothers, if you're watching, Dream don't stay there. Okay?
Good.
She don't stay there. She finds a white child.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a brother who is extremely strong, who's extremely protected, who is almost like angelic throughout Dream's life. For the same length of time that she knew her husband, she knew this man, and he's just kind of guided through the process, and then he becomes her love interest.
Okay, I like that. And my sister Naima says she was preaching and saying, "Amen. Energy doesn't die." Yes, ma'am. Has stuff. Okay, people showing you love. Can't wait to put this on YouTube. Now, once again, we spoke earlier about me, in theater and acting. So
Yeah.
if these books go into a series or a film, I mean, just saying, if you need somebody to be stronger or strong in there anyway, just let me know. We always collaborate.
So that's what's next. I mean, no, honestly, that's what's next. You know, the whole year the last 6 months I've been meeting with my team. Um, we already started vetting out some screenwriters. I want to shout out. There's a movie on Netflix. It's called Miss Virginia, and it's based on a true story. It's based in D.C. Um, it's based on the life of a sister named an elder Virginia Walden, and in that movie, which is crazy, my late husband is actually his character is perpetuated in that movie because it's based on what she put in place educationally wise for young Black men in DC. So it's based on her life story, and her son, who's still living, had a best friend, and that best friend is actually perpetuated in that movie Miss Virginia. And so Stronger, on Netflix, it's just kind of like, a springboard. So yes, I'm looking at definitely turning this into a screenplay. So we definitely gonna talk
Thank
because
you very much.
that is the 2022 goal. And I'm working on stronger products.
Good, good, good. Yes, ma'am.
Uh-huh.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. And once again, where can we get the book Stronger?
Yes, you can get stronger at brandieforte.com, amazon.com, barnesandnoble.com, goodreads.com, and go to any of your local Barnes and Noble, and you'll be able to get the copy there in any major city.
Okay, great. Well, I want to thank you for coming on. And
Yeah.
on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewer and audience of the People's Podcast, but we also can't stress that we can't wait for you to come back with your book, with your screen, whatever you got working on, People's Podcast. Anytime you want to come on, just let me know.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to watch this. I'm looking to see what you have next. And God bless you. Keep doing what you're doing. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This is Joshua Leonard Muhammad signing off for the People's Podcast. Thank you again.
Peace.
Peace. Boom.